The metal chair felt cold beneath Krelvan's body. His scaled hands rested on the table, held in place by electromagnetic restraints. The room was dark except for a single light above his head. Across from him sat Commander Vexthor, a senior officer in the Zitharon Military Intelligence Division. The commander's eyes studied Krelvan with growing concern. Krelvan had served in the Zitharon military for 30 cycles. He had fought in 12 campaigns across 9 different worlds. He wore medals on his chest that represented battles won and enemies defeated. Other soldiers looked up to him. Young warriors wanted to be like him. But now, sitting in this interrogation room, Krelvan looked nothing like a hero. His hands shook slightly. His eyes moved around the room as if searching for danger. When he spoke, his voice cracked. "They should not have sent us there," Krelvan said quietly. "We were not prepared." Vexthor touched a panel on the table. A holographic display appeared showing images of a blue and green planet, Earth. The planet looked peaceful from space. Oceans covered most of its surface. White clouds drifted across continents. It seemed like any other primitive world the Empire had encountered. "Your report says the humans defeated your battalion," Vexthor said. His voice carried doubt. "A battalion of 5,000 Zitharon warriors, the finest soldiers in the Empire, defeated by creatures who barely have basic spaceflight capabilities." Krelvan looked at the image of Earth. Something dark passed across his face. Fear. Real, genuine fear. Vexthor had interrogated hundreds of soldiers in his career. He had never seen that look on a Zitharon warrior's face before. "They did not just defeat us," Krelvan said. "They destroyed us, and they enjoyed it." The holographic display changed. Now it showed data about humans, their average height, weight, and physical capabilities. According to the scans, humans were weaker than Zitharons. They had no natural armor. No claws, no venom. Their bodies were soft and vulnerable. They needed special suits to survive in space. Their weapons technology was centuries behind the Empire's standards. "Explain to me how these weak creatures defeated you," Vexthor demanded. Krelvan closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were focused on something far away. He was remembering. "It started 3 weeks ago," Krelvan began. "Fleet Command identified a human colony world. New Haven, they called it. The planet had 50,000 human settlers. Our intelligence said they had minimal defenses. A few orbital platforms, some ground-based weapons, nothing that could stop even a small Zitharon force." Vexthor nodded. This matched what he had read in the preliminary reports. "We sent the standard first contact message," Krelvan continued. "Surrender or be destroyed. Every other species we have encountered accepts these terms. The smart ones surrender immediately. The foolish ones resist for a few hours before realizing they cannot win. Either way, conquest usually takes less than 1 planetary rotation. But not with the humans," Vexthor said. "No." Krelvan's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Not with the humans." The holographic display shifted again. It now showed the human colony world of New Haven. Green valleys stretched between mountain ranges. A small city sat near the coast. Agricultural fields covered the plains. It looked like an easy target. "They responded to our message within minutes," Krelvan said. "But they did not surrender. Instead, they sent back a message of their own. Just 2 words in our language. They said, 'Come try.'" Vexthor leaned forward. "They refused surrender before even seeing your forces?" "Yes, at first we thought it was a translation error. Perhaps they did not understand. So we moved our ships into orbit and showed them our fleet, 50 warships, each one capable of destroying their entire settlement from space. We gave them another chance to surrender, and they refused again," Vexthor guessed. Krelvan nodded slowly. "They did more than refuse. They opened fire. Their orbital platforms attacked our fleet. They knew they could not win. Their weapons could barely scratch our shields, but they fired anyway." The memory seemed to disturb Krelvan deeply. He paused for a long moment before continuing. "That was when I should have known," he said. "That was when I should have told Fleet Command to turn around and leave that system. Any species that attacks when they have no chance of victory is either insane or dangerous. The humans are both." Vexthor made a note on his datapad. "You engaged their orbital defenses?" "We destroyed them in less than an hour," Krelvan said. "Every platform, every satellite, every ship they had in orbit. We thought the battle was over. We thought they would surrender then. We were wrong." The holographic display showed a human face now. A male human with short dark hair and hard eyes. His name appeared below the image, Captain Jake Morrison. This human commanded one of their defense ships, Krelvan explained. His vessel was burning. Half his crew was dead. His weapons were almost out of ammunition. Any rational being would have retreated or surrendered. But Captain Morrison did neither. What did he do? Vexthor asked. He pointed his ship at our flagship and accelerated to maximum speed, Krelvan said. He was going to ram us. Destroy his own ship and everyone on it just to damage one of ours. We destroyed his ship before impact, but the explosion still damaged our shields. And before he died, Morrison transmitted a message to the colony below. He told them to fight. He told them never to surrender. He told them to make us pay for every meter of ground. Vexthor sat back in his chair. Suicide attacks were not unknown in warfare. Desperate enemies sometimes chose death over capture, but something about the way Krelvan described it seemed different. The human died to inspire the others, Vexthor said, understanding. No, Krelvan corrected him. The human died to show the others what was expected of them. And they listened. Every single one of them listened. The restraints on Krelvan's wrists beeped softly. His heart rate was increasing. Stress markers appeared on Vexthor's monitor. The veteran warrior was becoming agitated just from remembering the events. After we destroyed their orbital defenses, we landed ground forces, Krelvan continued. 5,000 warriors, the best soldiers in the Empire. We expected to occupy the colony within hours. Resistance would be minimal. Casualties would be light, he laughed then. It was not a happy sound. It was bitter and broken. We lost 300 soldiers on the first day, Krelvan said. 300? On a colony world with no military installations. Against farmers and miners and shopkeepers who had picked up weapons. Vexthor's expression changed. 300 casualties in one day was unheard of in colonial operations. How? The commander demanded. Krelvan looked directly at Vexthor. His eyes held something that made the intelligence officer uncomfortable. Because humans do not fight like any other species in the galaxy, Krelvan said. They do not retreat when wounded. They do not surrender when surrounded. They do not value their own lives above victory. They are predators, Commander, and we walked into their territory thinking we were the hunters. The interrogation room fell silent. Outside, the massive flagship continued its journey through space. Thousands of Zithron warriors prepared for their next deployment. But in this small room, one veteran soldier tried to explain the impossible. He tried to make his superior understand what the Empire had encountered on that distant world. He tried to warn them about humanity. The memory came back to Krelvan with perfect clarity. He stood on the bridge of the troop transport, watching New Haven grow larger on the view screen. The planet looked peaceful, beautiful even. Blue oceans reflected sunlight. Green continents promised resources and land. This should have been a simple operation. Lieutenant Amy Chen sat at her station aboard the human frigate Valiant. Warning lights flashed across her console. Enemy ships surrounded them. 50 Zithron warships against 5 human defenders. The math was simple. They were going to die. She looked over at Captain Jake Morrison. He stood calmly in the center of the bridge, studying tactical displays. Captain, they're charging weapons, she reported. Her voice stayed steady despite the fear in her chest. Morrison nodded. How many missiles do we have left? 42, sir. Good, target their flagship. Full spread, Amy hesitated. Sir, our missiles cannot penetrate their shields. We would need at least 100 direct hits to cause any real damage. Morrison smiled. It was not a happy smile. I know. Fire anyway. Amy did not question the order again. She locked onto the Zithron flagship and launched every missile the Valiant carried. The small ship shuddered as the weapons launched. On the view screen, 42 trails of light streaked toward the enemy. The Zithron point defense systems destroyed every missile easily. Not one reached the flagship. Amy watched her weapons disappear from the tactical display. 42 missiles. 42 failures. Helm, take us into close range, Morrison ordered. Maximum speed. The bridge crew looked at their captain. Everyone understood what he was planning. It was suicide. But no one argued. They had all volunteered to defend this colony. They had all known it might end this way. The Valiant accelerated toward the Zithron fleet. Enemy ships opened fire. The small human frigate shook as energy weapons hammered its shields. Damage reports came in from all sections. The engineering deck was on fire. The medical bay had lost pressure. Crew members were dying. Krelvan watched the human ship approach. He felt something he rarely experienced in battle. Confusion. Why was this vessel not retreating? Why was it accelerating towards certain death? The human ship was already critically damaged. Its shields were failing. One more volley would destroy it completely. The humans are trying to ram the flagship, his aide reported with surprise. Krelvan understood then. The humans were willing to trade their lives for even the smallest chance to damage a Zitharon ship. It was wasteful, illogical, desperate, and it almost worked. The flagship's main guns fired. The human ship exploded in a ball of fire and debris, but the explosion was close. Very close. Fragments of burning metal struck the flagship's shields. Alarms sounded across the Zitharon vessel. The shields held, but they had been weakened. It would take hours to fully restore them. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the destroyed vessel," the communications officer reported. It was sent moments before impact. "Play it," Krelvan ordered. Captain Morrison's face appeared on the screen. Behind him, the Valiant's bridge was burning. Crew members worked frantically at their stations. Morrison looked directly into the camera. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. He was smiling. "To all defenders of New Haven," Morrison said. His voice was calm, almost cheerful. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Valiant. We have engaged the enemy. We did not stop them, but we hurt them. We made them bleed. Remember this. They can be hurt. They can be killed. Make them pay for every meter of ground. Make them regret coming to our world." Morrison out. The transmission ended. The screen went dark. In the silence that followed, Krelvan felt a chill run through his body. The human captain had died with a smile on his face. He had died delivering a message of defiance to his people. It was the act of a fanatic or a hero. Perhaps there was no difference. On the surface of New Haven, Private Danny Cooper heard Morrison's final message. He stood in a supply depot on the edge of the main colony. 40 other human soldiers stood with him. They were all that remained of the Planetary Defense Force. Everyone else had evacuated with the civilians to underground shelters. "We are supposed to hold this position," Sergeant Lisa Grant said. She was the ranking officer now. The lieutenant who had been in command was dead, killed in the first orbital bombardment. "Intelligence says the aliens need this depot. The supplies here will sustain their ground forces for weeks. If we deny them this, we hurt their operation." Danny checked his rifle. He was 23 years old. He had joined the Colonial Defense Force to protect his family. His parents ran a farm 30 kilometers north. His younger sister worked in the colony hospital. They were in the shelters now, safe. His job was to keep them that way. "How long do we hold?" someone asked. "As long as we can," Lisa answered. "Command estimates the aliens will reach this position in 6 hours. We hold until we cannot hold anymore." Danny looked around at the other soldiers. Some were scared. Some were angry. Some looked determined. All of them understood the reality. 40 soldiers could not stop thousands of alien warriors. This was not about winning. This was about buying time. This was about making the enemy pay. The Zitharon dropships landed 2 kilometers from the supply depot. Krelvan watched his warriors disembark. They moved in perfect formation. Weapons ready, armor gleaming. They looked unstoppable. They had conquered dozens of worlds. This would be no different. "The enemy has fortified a supply depot ahead," his tactical officer reported. "Scans show approximately 40 defenders. All human," Krelvan nodded. "Send 200 warriors. Take the depot intact if possible. Kill any who resist." It should have been simple. 200 trained soldiers against 40 colonial defenders. But Krelvan had not yet learned the most important lesson about fighting humans. Numbers do not matter when your enemy refuses to accept defeat. The 200 Zitharon warriors advanced on the depot. They moved carefully through the streets of the colony. Buildings stood empty. Vehicles sat abandoned. It was like walking through a ghost town. The warriors reached the depot within an hour. They could see the humans inside, taking positions behind supply crates and vehicles. The Zitharon commander broadcast a surrender demand. The humans responded with gunfire. The battle began at dawn and lasted until sunset. 200 Zitharon warriors attacked a depot defended by 40 humans. The humans had prepared their position well. They had explosives placed on the approaches, sniper positions on the roofs, kill zones carefully planned. Every time the Zitharons advanced, humans died. But Zitharons died too. Danny Cooper fired until his rifle ran out of ammunition. Then he picked up another rifle from a fallen comrade and fired that one too. Around him, other defenders did the same. Lisa Grant moved from position to position, coordinating their defense. She was wounded. Everyone was wounded, but they kept fighting. By noon, 30 humans were dead, but 60 Zithron warriors had fallen. The aliens sent another 100 soldiers to reinforce the attack. Now 300 warriors fought against 10 remaining humans. Danny crouched behind a burning transport vehicle. His left arm was broken. He had been shot twice, but he still held his rifle. Next to him, Lisa Grant pressed a bandage against a wound in her side. Her face was pale from blood loss. "We did good," she said quietly. Danny nodded.
How long did we hold?
6 hours. Exactly what they asked for. The depot suddenly shook with a massive explosion. One of the humans had detonated the charges placed throughout the building. The entire structure began to collapse. Zithron warriors scattered as walls fell and ceilings crashed down. In the chaos and dust, Danny saw Lisa Grant stand up. She was smiling. "For New Haven," she said. Then she charged into the enemy with nothing but a combat knife. Krelvan stood at the command post when the report came in. The depot was destroyed. The supplies were lost. 200 of his warriors were dead or wounded. 10 humans had held that position for 6 hours against overwhelming force. Then they had destroyed everything rather than let it fall into Zithron hands. He looked at the casualty reports. On the first day of occupation, his battalion had lost 300 warriors. Across the colony, humans fought with desperate ferocity. They ambushed patrols. They sabotaged equipment. They refused every surrender offer. They fought like the world itself was worth dying for, because to them it was. Firebase Prometheus sat on a hill overlooking a valley. The human defenders had built it in 3 days using prefabricated walls and whatever materials they could salvage. It was not impressive. The walls were only 4 meters high. The defensive guns were old models. The garrison numbered only 200 soldiers. But Major Nick Hayes stood on those walls and looked at the approaching Zithron army without fear. 5,000 alien warriors surrounded the firebase. Krelvan commanded them personally now. Too many officers had died in the first week of fighting. The humans killed with ruthless efficiency. They set traps. They ambushed supply convoys. They struck at night when Zithron sensors were less effective. Every day brought new casualties. Every day made Krelvan more angry. Now he had the humans trapped. They had nowhere to run. No reinforcements were coming. The fleet in orbit would destroy any ship trying to land. This firebase represented the last organized resistance on New Haven. Once it fell, the colony would be under Zithron control. "Send them the surrender offer," Krelvan ordered. The message went out on all frequencies. Surrender and be treated according to the laws of war. Continue fighting and face total destruction. It was standard protocol. It was also, Krelvan was beginning to realize, completely pointless. Major Hayes read the surrender demand on his command console. Around him, the firebase prepared for battle. Soldiers checked weapons. Engineers reinforced weak points in the walls. Dr. Lisa Grant organized the medical station. Everyone worked calmly, efficiently. They had known this moment was coming. "Send them our response," Hayes told his communications officer. The response was simple. No. Krelvan read the human reply. One word. He was not surprised. In 2 weeks of fighting, not a single human had surrendered, not one. Every other species the Zithrons had encountered included some individuals who chose survival over continued resistance. But not humans. They fought until they died. All of them. "Begin the assault," Krelvan ordered. The first wave of Zithron warriors advanced up the hill. Artillery support blasted the firebase walls. Human defenders returned fire from protected positions. The battle for Firebase Prometheus had begun. It lasted 6 days. On the first day, the Zithrons expected to break through the human defenses within hours. They had overwhelming numbers. They had superior weapons. They had armored vehicles and air support. The humans had courage and determination. Against any other species, that would not have been enough. Against any other species, they would have been right. Corporal Ryan Foster crouched in a bunker near the north wall. He was a demolitions expert. His job was to detonate charges when enemy forces got too close to the defenses. He had placed explosives at 12 different points around the firebase. Each one was carefully positioned to cause maximum damage to attacking forces. The first wave of Zitherons reached the wall. Ryan pressed the detonator. The ground erupted in fire and debris. Alien warriors flew through the air. The explosion killed 60 soldiers instantly. It did not stop the attack. More Zitherons poured into the gap. Major Hayes watched from the command post. The north wall was breaching. He sent reinforcements. 30 soldiers ran to plug the gap. They met the aliens in close combat. Humans and Zitherons fought hand-to-hand in the smoke and fire. Both sides took heavy casualties. By sunset on the first day, 100 humans were dead or wounded. But 500 Zitheron warriors had fallen. The firebase still stood. Dr. Lisa Grant worked in the medical station without stopping. Wounded soldiers came in waves. She treated them as fast as she could. Gunshot wounds, burns, broken bones. Some injuries were too severe. Those soldiers got pain medication and were sent back to their posts. They chose to die fighting rather than in a medical bed. One soldier came in with his left leg almost completely severed. Lisa worked to stop the bleeding. The soldier, a young man named Kevin White, grabbed her wrist. "Give me something for the pain and a rifle," he said. "You need surgery," Lisa told him. "No time. They are breaking through the east wall." "I can still shoot." Lisa looked into his eyes. She saw no fear there, only determination. She gave him the pain medication and helped him to a defensive position. Kevin White died 4 hours later, but not before killing 12 more alien warriors. On the second day, Krelvan changed tactics. He ordered constant artillery bombardment. The shells fell on the firebase without pause. Buildings collapsed. Walls crumbled. The humans took cover in underground bunkers and tunnels. When the bombardment stopped, they emerged and returned to their positions. The Zitherons attacked again. Again they were thrown back. Again they took heavy casualties. On the third day, Krelvan tried to wait them out. Humans needed food and water more frequently than Zitherons. The firebase was cut off from all supply lines. Eventually they would run out of provisions. Eventually they would have to surrender. But the humans rationed everything. They gave the largest portions to the soldiers who were still combat effective. The wounded got less. The severely wounded got barely anything. No one complained. Everyone understood the priority. Keep fighting as long as possible. On the fourth day, the Zitherons breached the south wall. 200 alien warriors poured into the firebase. Major Hayes personally led the counterattack. He fought with a rifle in one hand and a pistol in the other. Behind him, 40 human soldiers charged into the breach. The fighting was brutal. Humans and aliens killed each other at point-blank range. The ground ran red with blood from both species. The battle raged for 3 hours. In the end, the humans pushed the Zitherons back out of the firebase. Every single human in that counterattack was wounded. 15 were dead. But they had held. On the fifth day, Ryan Foster lay in the medical station. A piece of shrapnel had torn through his stomach. Lisa Grant had done what she could, but the wound was fatal. Ryan knew it. Everyone knew it. He had maybe 6 hours left. "I want to go back to my post," he told Lisa. "Ryan, you can barely move." "I placed charges in the tunnel under the east wall," he explained. His voice was weak but clear. "If the aliens get through there, someone needs to detonate them." "That is my job." Lisa helped him to his feet. 2 other soldiers supported him as he walked to his position. They gave him the detonator and left him there. Ryan sat against a wall and waited. He did not have to wait long. The Zitherons found the tunnel on the afternoon of the 5th day. They sent 300 warriors through it. The tunnel would bring them inside the firebase defenses. It was the breakthrough Krelvan had been waiting for. Ryan Foster heard them coming. He could not see them in the darkness of the tunnel, but he heard their footsteps. Hundreds of them, he smiled. His hand closed around the detonator. He thought about his home, about his family, about the fact that his death would mean something. He pressed the button. The explosion collapsed half a kilometer of tunnel. 300 Zitheron warriors died instantly. The shockwave shook the entire firebase. When the dust settled, there was nothing left but rubble. On the 6th day, only 12 humans remained alive. They were out of ammunition for their heavy weapons. Their food was gone. Their water was almost gone. The firebase was barely standing. Major Hayes walked among his soldiers. Everyone was wounded. Everyone was exhausted, but everyone was still ready to fight. "We held for 6 days, Hayes told them. The civilians got away. The fleet evacuated them to the outer colonies. We gave them the time they needed. We did our job. The soldiers nodded. They had known from the beginning that this was a one-way mission. They had volunteered anyway. Krelvan stood outside the firebase and looked at the ruins. His battalion had started with 5,000 warriors. Now, after 6 days of fighting against 200 humans, he had less than 3,000 combat-effective soldiers. 2,000 of his warriors were dead or wounded, killed by an enemy that should have been defeated in hours. He sent one final surrender demand. He did not expect an answer. Major Hayes read the message. He gathered his remaining soldiers. 12 men and women who had held against impossible odds. 12 humans who had refused to break. "They want us to surrender," Hayes told them. "What do we tell them?" someone asked. Hayes smiled. "Same thing we have been telling them for 6 days. The response went out. One word: no. The final assault began at dawn. The Zitherons came from all sides. They overwhelmed the last defenses. They killed the remaining humans. All 12 defenders died fighting. Major Nick Hayes was the last to fall. He took 5 more alien warriors with him before he died. When it was over, Krelvan walked through the firebase. Bodies lay everywhere. Human and Zitheron mixed together. The ground was black with blood. The walls were riddled with bullet holes. Everything was destroyed. He found the human command post. On the wall was a message written in Zitheron language. Someone had taken the time to write it before they died. The message was simple. "We held for 6 days. How long will you remember?" Krelvan stared at those words for a long time. Around him, his surviving warriors moved through the ruins. They had won. They had taken the firebase. But victory felt hollow. 2,000 soldiers dead, 6 days of constant battle, all to defeat 200 humans. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a question formed. If 200 humans could do this, what could 2 billion do? What would... The human destroyer Defiant limped through space on damaged engines. Commander Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge and watched the tactical display. 15 Zitheron warships followed them. Her ship carried 3,000 civilian refugees from New Haven and 200 military personnel. The civilians filled every cargo bay, every corridor, every available space. They were the lucky ones, the ones who escaped before the colony fell. "Distance to nearest human outpost?" Kate asked. Lieutenant Ben Rodriguez checked his console. 3 weeks at current speed, Captain. And how long until the Zitherons catch us? At their current speed, they will be in weapons range in 6 hours. Kate nodded slowly. 6 hours. She had been running from the alien fleet for 2 weeks now. Every day they got a little closer. Every day her ship got a little slower. The Defiant was falling apart. Hull breaches on 3 decks, main weapons at 40% capacity, shields barely functioning. They had been through hell, and it showed. Chief Engineer Paul Williams appeared on the communication screen. He looked exhausted. Oil and grease covered his uniform. Behind him, the engineering deck sparked and smoked. "Captain, I need to shut down the main drive for repairs," Paul said. "We are pushing the engines beyond their limits. If we do not stop soon, they will fail completely." "How long do you need?" Kate asked. 6 hours minimum. "The Zitherons will catch us in 6 hours." Paul was quiet for a moment. "Then we have a problem." Kate looked at the tactical display again. She had been running possible scenarios in her head for days. None of them ended well. But some ended better than others. "Keep the engines running," she ordered. "I have an idea." Krelvan sat in the command chair of his ship and studied the human vessel ahead. The Defiant was dying. His sensors showed multiple system failures throughout the ship. They were leaking atmosphere from a dozen hull breaches. Their weapons were almost depleted. It was only a matter of time before they were forced to surrender. This should have made him happy. After the disaster at Firebase Prometheus, he needed a victory. The fleet admiral was demanding results. The Empire wanted to know why it was taking so long to conquer one primitive colony. Capturing this human ship and its refugees would help restore his reputation. But Krelvan had learned not to underestimate humans. They never did what was expected. They never gave up when they should. Even now, running on a broken ship, they refused to surrender. "Sir, the human vessel is changing course," his tactical officer reported. Krelvan leaned forward. "Where are they going?" "Into the asteroid field." Every officer on the bridge turned to look at the view screen. Ahead, a massive field of asteroids filled the space between them and the nearest star system. Thousands of rocks ranging from small boulders to mountains tumbled through the void. It was extremely dangerous. Ships could be crushed by colliding asteroids. Navigation was nearly impossible. They are trying to lose us in the field, Krelvan said. Should we follow, sir? Krelvan considered his options. The smart move was to wait outside the asteroid field. Eventually, the humans would have to emerge, or they would be destroyed by the asteroids. Either way, the problem would be solved without risking his ships. But he had been letting humans dictate the terms of engagement for too long. He had let them choose the battlefield at Firebase Prometheus. He had let them run for 2 weeks, no more. It was time to end this. All ships enter the asteroid field. Stay in formation. We hunt them down. The Defiant slipped between massive asteroids. Kate stood at the helm herself, manually piloting the ship through the dangerous field. Every few seconds, a rock the size of a building tumbled past. Some came within meters of the hull. The refugees in the cargo bay screamed every time the ship shook, but Kate kept going deeper into the field. Captain, the Zitherons are following us, Ben reported. Good, how many ships?
All 15, Kate smiled.
Perfect. Over the next 3 days, Kate Sullivan proved why she had been given command of a destroyer at age 32. She led the Zitheron fleet deeper into the asteroid field. She used the rocks as cover. She made sudden turns that forced the aliens to scatter their formation. She led them through the most dangerous sections where collisions were most likely. The Zitherons lost their first ship on day 2. A frigate failed to avoid a collision with a massive asteroid. The rock crushed the ship like paper. 200 alien warriors died instantly. Krelvan ordered the fleet to slow down, to be more careful. But slowing down let the Defiant pull ahead. On day 3, Kate set her first trap. She led the fleet through a narrow channel between 2 massive asteroids. Then she fired missiles at the asteroids themselves. The missiles had no chance of damaging the Zitheron ships, but they did not need to. They shattered the asteroids. Thousands of fragments filled the channel. 3 more Zitheron ships were destroyed by the debris storm. She is insane, Krelvan's tactical officer said. Krelvan did not disagree. No sane commander would try these tactics. The risk was too great. One mistake and the Defiant would be destroyed. But Kate Sullivan did not make mistakes. She flew through the asteroid field like she had been born in space. Every turn was perfect. Every maneuver put her ship exactly where it needed to be. By day 5, Krelvan had lost 8 ships, more than half his fleet, and the human vessel was still ahead of him, still running, still fighting. Paul Williams performed miracles in the engineering deck. The engines should have failed days ago. The power systems were held together with spare parts and desperate hope, but Paul kept everything running. When the plasma conduits failed, he rerouted power through secondary systems. When the coolant leaked, he patched it with whatever materials he could find. How much longer can we keep this up? Lieutenant Ben asked during one of the brief moments when the ship was not being chased through an asteroid field. Paul looked at his diagnostic screens. They showed red warnings on every system. Honestly, we should have exploded yesterday. At this point, I think the ship is running on pure spite. Ben laughed despite the situation. Spite. That was very human. They were too angry at the Zitherons to die, too determined to give up. The ship reflected its crew. On day 7, Kate led the remaining Zitheron ships into the densest part of the asteroid field. Here the rocks tumbled so close together that navigation was almost impossible. She slipped the Defiant through gaps barely wider than the hull. Behind her, the alien ships struggled to follow. Their larger vessels could not fit through the narrow spaces. 2 more Zitheron ships collided with asteroids. Another took damage trying to turn too quickly and had to fall back. Now only 5 ships remained in pursuit. Krelvan knew he should break off the chase. He had lost too many ships, too many warriors. The smart move was to let the humans go and report back to command. But he could not do that. If he let them escape, everything would be for nothing. All those deaths would be meaningless. He had to finish this. All remaining ships, maximum pursuit, he ordered. The final confrontation came on day 9. The Defiant emerged from the asteroid field into open space. The ship was barely functioning. The engines were failing. The hull was cracked in multiple places, but they had made it through. Behind them, 5 Zitheron ships followed. Krelvan felt relief. Finally, in open space, his superior weapons and speed would end this chase. Kate looked at her command console. Every system was red. Every warning light was flashing. Paul had sent her a message 10 minutes ago. The engines would fail within the hour. After that, the ship would be dead in space. Captain, the Zitherons are closing to weapons range, Ben reported. Kate nodded. She had known this moment would come. From the beginning, she had known how this would end. The only question was how much damage she could do before the end. Evacuate all civilians to the escape pods, she ordered. All non-essential personnel as well. Captain? Ben looked at her with confusion. Do it now. We have maybe 30 minutes. Understanding dawned on Ben's face. You are going to ram them. One of them, Kate corrected. We only have enough speed for one good hit. I am thinking the flagship. Kill the commander and maybe the others will break off. The evacuation began immediately. 3,000 civilians and most of the crew loaded into escape pods. They would drift until a rescue ship found them. The Zitherons might capture them, but at least they would be alive. 20 people stayed on the Defiant. The minimum crew needed to fly the ship. Kate, Ben, Paul, and 17 others who volunteered to stay. They all knew they were about to die. Krelvan watched the Defiant turn toward his flagship. He saw the escape pods launching. He understood immediately what the humans were planning. They were going to ram him. Just like Captain Morrison had tried weeks ago. They were going to trade their lives for his. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. But the Defiant, even damaged and dying, was faster than his flagship. Kate pushed the engines beyond their limits. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed throughout every deck, but she kept accelerating. Target their engines, Krelvan ordered. Destroy them before they reach us. The Zitharon ships opened fire. Energy weapons and missiles struck the Defiant from all sides. The shields failed immediately. The hull tore open. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship was dying, but it kept coming. Kate held the controls with both hands. Around her, the bridge was on fire. Commander Vexthor sat in silence for a long moment after Krelvan finished speaking. The interrogation room felt smaller now, heavier. The story the veteran warrior had told was difficult to believe. Yet every word was confirmed by battle reports and sensor logs. It had all happened exactly as Krelvan described. 3,000 refugees escaped, Vexthor said quietly. That is what this was all about. Commander Sullivan sacrificed her ship and crew to save civilians. Not just civilians, Krelvan corrected. His voice was tired. Children. Half of those refugees were children, human offspring. Do you understand what that means? Vexthor looked confused. No, explain. Humans do not just fight for territory or resources, Krelvan said. They fight for their young. And when you threaten their young, they become something else, something terrifying. We did not invade a colony. We attacked their children, and now they will never stop until we are destroyed. Before Vexthor could respond, an aide entered the room. He looked pale, frightened. He handed Vexthor a datapad and left quickly without speaking. Vexthor read the report on the pad. His expression changed from confusion to shock to something that looked like fear. What is it? Krelvan asked. Intelligence reports from Earth, Vexthor said slowly. The humans have mobilized completely. Every nation on their planet has united. All their resources are being converted to military production. They are building warships at a rate we thought impossible for their technology level. How many ships? Vexthor looked at the numbers again, hoping he had read them wrong. Our analysts estimate they will have a fleet of 10,000 vessels within 6 months. Krelvan laughed. It was a broken sound. 10,000 ships. For one lost colony. I tried to tell command. I tried to warn them. But no one would listen. You are saying we cannot win this war, Vexthor said. I am saying we already lost. We just do not know it yet. The door opened again. This time a full security team entered. Behind them walked Admiral Supreme Draxel, the Supreme Commander of the Zitharon military forces. Every officer in the room immediately stood at attention. Draxel was a legend. He had conquered 15 worlds. He had never lost a battle. Leave us, Draxel ordered the security team. They left. Draxel sat down across from Krelvan. For a moment, the two warriors studied each other. Then Draxel spoke. I have read your report. All of it. I have also read the reports from other units that engaged the humans. The pattern is consistent. High casualties, extended battles, determined resistance. The humans fight beyond all reasonable expectations. Yes, sir, Krelvan said. The High Council believes you are exaggerating. They think you are making excuses for failure. They want me to court-martial you for incompetence. Krelvan said nothing. What could he say? The facts spoke for themselves. I disagree with the Council, Draxel continued. I have fought many species. I understand warfare, and I understand what you faced on New Haven. The question is, what do we do about it? Withdraw, Krelvan said immediately. Leave human space. Offer peace terms. Before it is too late, Draxel shook his head. The Council will never agree. The Empire does not retreat. We do not show weakness. Then the Empire will fall, Krelvan said flatly. Because the humans will not stop. They will build their fleet. They will come to our worlds, and they will do to us exactly what we did to them. Vexthor pulled up files on his console. Intelligence has been analyzing human history. What we found is disturbing. The humans have been at war constantly for their entire recorded history. They fight each other when they have no external enemies. Their whole civilization is built around conflict. Draxel leaned forward. Explain. Every major advancement in human technology comes from warfare, Vexthor said. Their computers, their rockets, their medical science, all of it developed during wars. They have been practicing for this moment for thousands of years. The Admiral looked at the data scrolling across the screen. Human conflicts, battles, wars that lasted years or decades. Some wars killed millions. Yet the humans kept fighting. They never learned to stop. Or perhaps, Draxel thought, war was how they learned everything. What about their psychology? Draxel asked. Do we understand how they think? Vexthor pulled up another file. Our scientists have been studying captured human materials. Books, videos, cultural records. What they found is that humans have a concept they call hope. Even in impossible situations, humans believe they can win. This belief changes their behavior. They fight longer. They try harder. They refuse to accept defeat because they believe victory is always possible. That is illogical, Draxel said. Yes, Vexthor agreed. But it works. Hope makes them dangerous. Krelvan spoke again. There is something else. Something worse. When humans are backed into a corner, when they face extinction, they develop what they call spite. They will destroy themselves just to hurt their enemy. They will burn their own worlds rather than let us take them. We cannot win against an enemy who would rather die than lose. The room fell silent. Outside, the flagship continued through space toward the Zitharon homeworlds. In the distance, far beyond sensor range, Earth prepared for war. Draxel stood up. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. How long do we have before the human fleet reaches our space? 6 months until their fleet is ready, Vexthor said. Another 3 months for them to reach our nearest outpost. 9 months total. And how long to evacuate our forward colonies? A year, maybe longer. Draxel turned back to face them. Then we have a choice. We can fight a war we cannot win, or we can try to negotiate peace. The Council will never approve negotiations, Vexthor said. Then I will not ask for their approval, Draxel replied. I will contact the humans directly. As a military commander, I have that authority during active conflicts. Krelvan looked at the Admiral with something like hope. You believe me. You understand what we are facing. I believe the evidence, Draxel said. And the evidence says that humans are the most dangerous species we have ever encountered. Not because of their technology. Not because of their numbers. But because of their nature. They are survivors. Fighters. And we made the mistake of giving them a reason to unite against us. The Admiral walked to the door, then paused. Krelvan, you are not going to be court-martialed. Instead, you are going to help me. You have fought the humans. You understand how they think. I need that knowledge. For what purpose, sir? To save the Empire, Draxel said. Because if we cannot make peace with humanity, they will destroy us. Not in years, not in decades, but soon, maybe in our lifetime. 1 week later, a message was transmitted from the Zitharon flagship toward human space. It was addressed to Earth's military command. The message was simple and direct. This is Admiral Supreme Draxel of the Zitharon Empire. I am authorized to negotiate terms for a ceasefire. We acknowledge our actions at New Haven were unjust. We are prepared to discuss reparations and the establishment of formal boundaries between our territories. We do not wish to continue this conflict. Please respond if you are willing to negotiate. The message traveled through space at light speed. It would take days to reach Earth. Days more to receive a response. In that time, Draxel waited. He knew the High Council would be furious when they learned what he had done. They would call it treason, weakness, surrender, let them. He had seen the reports. He had read Krelvan's testimony. He understood what was coming. The response from Earth arrived 5 days later. It came from someone calling himself President Scott Miller, leader of the newly formed United Earth government. The message was brief. Admiral Draxel, your message has been received and discussed. We are willing to negotiate. However, you should understand our position. You attacked our civilians. You killed our children. For this, there will be consequences. We are not interested in your surrender. We are not interested in your empire's survival. We are interested in making sure you never threaten another human world again. If you want peace, these are our terms. Total withdrawal from human space. Reparations for New Haven. And one more thing. You will remember what happened here. You will teach your children about the cost of attacking humanity. You will make sure your empire never forgets. If you accept these terms, we can talk. If not, we will see you in 9 months. The choice is yours. Draxel read the message 3 times. Then he called Krelvan to his office. You were right, the Admiral said. They are not going to forgive us. They are not going to forget. No, Krelvan agreed. Humans never forget. Outside the window, space looked peaceful, quiet, beautiful. But somewhere out there, 10,000 human warships were being built. 10,000 weapons aimed at the heart of the Empire. All because of one colony. One battle. One moment when the Zitherons made the mistake of thinking humans were just another primitive species. Krelvan thought about Firebase Prometheus. About Major Hayes and his 12 soldiers who held for 6 days. About Commander Sullivan who flew through an asteroid field and rammed a flagship to save refugees. About Danny Cooper and Lisa Grant and all the other humans who fought and died on New Haven. They had been defending their home, their families, their children. And in doing so, they had shown the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The Zithron Empire would accept Earth's terms. They would withdraw. They would pay reparations. They